Hey guys, SGT here. Thanks so much for joining us again. I have a very special broadcast here for you with two very important guests. The first is 57-year-old Jorge Lopehandia, and he is a miner from Chile. He's actually in Canada as we speak. Boy, does he have a compelling story to share. And we also have our good friend Jeff Nielson from Bullion Canada on the line to help us decipher all of this stuff. Both of you, Jorge and Jeff, welcome.
Nice to be here, Sean.
Nice to be here, Sean, and thank you very much for having your audience learn the real truth about the financial markets.
Well, thank you, Jorge, for joining us. Your story is a very gripping one. To me, it's a very much David versus Goliath story. I just want to set the stage for the listeners. Jorge has been engaged in a 17-year-long battle with a major gold producer. What you're about to share with us, Jorge, are the alleged crimes of Barrick Gold Corporation versus you, and the issue at hand is who has the rightful ownership to the Pascua Lama property in Chile, and it's a very, very gripping story. Those of you who are familiar with Barrick could easily cite many issues that GATA has pointed to with their role in what has been known as the gold price suppression schemes. Before we start, Jeff, let me throw to you. How did you get involved in this particular story?
Well, I was attending the Vancouver Resource Conference. It's held out here a couple of times a year, and whenever you go to these shows, you know, you're not only meeting people professionally, but of course I'm also an investor in the sector, and so you network with people that are involved with different companies, and of course you bump into different stories along the way. And so that's what I was doing at this year's show, and then I got introduced to a story about this pending litigation in the mining industry, and next thing you know, I was invited to this luncheon hosted by a junior mining company named Mountain Star Gold. I got introduced to Jorge and to the whole story about this litigation here. And as I began to listen to Jorge tell his story and listen to the people at Mountain Star Gold, you know, there were certain things about this tale which to me, you know, had a ring of truth to it, and so I began to get more interested. For one thing, Jorge mentioned that he's already been sued by Barrick, at least on one occasion, and yet despite that, he's still telling a story, and so, you know, that was something that seemed a little bit different, because a lot of times if there's no sort of fire behind the smoke, you know, these litigations will kind of silence all talk. But the other thing that was, of course, even more remarkable is that generally when you listen to these litigants talk about their claims, the line you get, of course, is that, you know, one day we're going to own this claim, or one day we're going to own a percentage of this claim. And what makes Jorge's story and this litigation so much different is that, you know, what we've been led to believe is that Jorge is already the legal title holder of this Pascua Lama property on the border of Chile and Argentina. Of course, the problem is that these are Chilean titles, and there's a language barrier. So it's impossible for me to personally verify this one way or another. And that's, you know, we have nothing to go by but just, you know, listening to the facts and Jorge's account here and then weighing the credibility.
Jorge, before we jump into the guts of your allegations and what you're up against, you know, with Barrick Gold Corporation, can you level set for us and help us understand your relationship historically to the Pascua Lama property? You claim it's yours. It seems to be holding up in court that is the case, and that Barrick allegedly stole that property from you. Can you tell us how you came to own that property?
Yes. In the year 1995 or thereabouts, shortly after Barrick acquired LAC Minerals, their geologists were up at the height of the Andes prospecting Mina Pascua. Some of my prospectors, they were lent to this task for the new company that was coming into Chile. When my prospectors came back, one of the oldest ones, now has passed away, but thanks God for him, he indicated, Don Jorge, these gringos, they have gone into Argentina, and they are claiming Argentine territory in Chile. And I said, that is impossible. They will just wreck all the claims that they're trying to acquire from LAC. And he said, no, they really did it. They had the maps, they got the GPS, and they were GPSing in Argentina. And I asked my workers, how do you know that it was Argentina? They said, Don Jorge, we know very well the boundaries of the border, and they were definitely in Argentina over the high rocks. And I go, very well, I will investigate with the National Service of Geology and Mining. And I so did. And I discovered that there was a third, could you call, default, that they had taken the National Treasury Department payment of properties for the LAC properties, and they had added up new names, new property, and new amounts as if they had paid it, and that was property in Argentina. And they entered that information, and it was captured by the computers of the National Service of Geology and Mine and by the History of Mining in Chile. So what they did is they defrauded the government as if they had paid in Chile claims, and in actual fact those territories were in Argentina, and what they did is invalidate the rights. So when I saw that the rights were invalid and that they had salts and nitrates on top of that, I decided to put a metallic claim, and that was the first one in the history of Chile to defend Mina Pascua until this date. And that's why in the judgment, the lady judge decided that Barrick had acted unjustly, had breached the law and the Constitution, and that those claims should be back in my name as per 1996 coordinates, which I did. The fact is that the world doesn't know it because Barrick sued the judge, and they sued criminally, and they paced around the world and the markets and the financial markets and the banks as insiders the fact that they had sued this lady judge, and we had Barrick subsidiaries in Chile admit in 2012 in the second court in Vallenar, finally, after 17 years, when they were only 4 blocks away to go and fetch title, that they didn't have it. And they confessed not to have title, not to have certified domain, and not to have one written agreement for any title defending tesoros that they have in the stock exchange filed. And they said that the agreements that they had with the property were agreements of word of mouth only. So in actual fact, after 17 years, this company has slandered me. Shortly after, I didn't not only go after the titles that they falsely put in Pascua Lama protocol and the stock exchange, I wanted out the titles that they sue me in Canada with, that they are the Villard titles, my agent. And Barrick sued me in 2002 to slander my name, to slander my last name, my reputation as a miner. And they obtained it because they had a high reputation. And lo and behold, not even the titles that they sued me in Canada in 2002 with did Barrick have in November 2012. They presented 1996 titles in the name of Minera Nevada S.A., like the RCMP said that they own Pascua with. But in 2001, they had an injunction until today, and the injunction is in my name. And Barrick's name was never in those titles, as they lied against me in Ontario Superior Court of Appeals, in Ontario courts, in British Columbia Superior Court, the Supreme Court. They lied against me in Canada. Okay, they breached my constitutional rights and my rights under the Charter, mine, my family, my children, my wife, everybody.
Help me understand, just real briefly, what is Mountain Star Gold's role in this thing? My understanding is that you are good friends with the President, Brent Johnson, and because he believes your version of events, he's seen your documentation, he has been supporting you and helping pay your legal bills since 2008 in return for a share, I believe, in the Pascua Lama property. Do I have that right?
Well, partially, and I will clarify it for your audience. Mountain Star Gold is the right heir and successor and perhaps inheritor of the ownership of Gold Strike, which is the largest USA gold area for Barrick Gold Corporation. The ex-president of Mountain Star Gold, Mike Fitzgerald, delivered those assets to Barrick and became personally a billionaire and didn't contribute its money back to the company that he was heading. So Brent has been fighting the recovery of gold strike for about as long as I have been fighting Mina Pascua recovery. Sikora Saunders of StopBarrick.com in Australia introduced Brent to me. And when Brent realized what I had, he said, can you prove that? And I said, yeah, and we put the titles together. And we decided that it was good to put my assets, that they are new assets guaranteed by a Supreme Court validated judgment, into his company and face off with Barrick. Finally, go for it. Like you said, David and Goliath. And you just picked it up quite as it is. We were the little David and we only had one rock, okay? And we tossed it very well, and the Chilean government has laid criminal charges because of that rock, and Goliath is on the floor. The true story is that this is more than a title fight. This is a fight for me to introduce environmental mining to Chile and eco-mining to Chile with eco-friendly technology able to produce all minerals with either using fresh water or seawater as the catalyst and mean. And there was too much invested in chemical mining in Chile, and Barrick certainly tried to do a chemical project and did not succeed at it as of recently, and has been shut down in the project because of falsification of the Pascua Lama protocol in what pertains to mining property titles and malicious use of the same, which are criminal charges levied against every director and every executive of Barrick Chile and various subsidiaries, extensive to Canadian Barrick Gold Corporation as named in the trials. The story goes back to the year 1994 when LAC Minerals lost the fight against a Canadian miner, Murray Pessam, local to Vancouver mining scenes, regarding an Ontario Timmins gold mine. And there was a business agreed upon between LAC Minerals and Murray Pessam, and it was not respected. And that said jurisprudence in Canada that was named and called until this day LAC versus Corona, meaning no one can go around anybody's back in this business, mining. LAC actually was practically decimated in Canada, and it was purchased by Barrick Gold Corporation, a company that started with $8 million and sprouted out from the ashes of Barrick Oil Corporation. That corporation was built in dubious transactions, and it came to Chile as a partner or having purchased LAC Minerals in Canada. In actual fact, LAC Minerals still remains in control of the Pascua Lama project from Cayman Islands, from offshore, via subsidiaries that own some obscure Chilean subsidiaries, included but not limited to Barrick 2, that sold royalties on Pascua Lama. And Lama, they cannot sell royalties in Chile, but they did it via HSBC to Royal Gold, Royalty Corporation, and others in the open markets. But the truth of title is that what LAC Minerals sold to Barrick in 1994, it was a set of claims that they are until this day salts and nitrate concessions.
They're not even
meaning
actual mining claims.
They have no legal authority to mine gold with those concessions. And in 1996, I laid the first historical concessions for the history of mining in Chile, of metallic concessions over to defend Mina Pascua, Chile. And when I did so, I informed Barrick, and I was invited by the president of Barrick to negotiate those metallic concessions that they were the thrust and only defense of gold, silver, and copper in Chile. And they agreed on business with me, but they betrayed me. And they got my information, and then they defrauded my mining trustee, my engineer, my mining property engineer. He, the engineer, was authorized by me to meet with Barrick and present them title and everything, and eventually sign off as agreed, multi-million-dollar transactions with gold royalties involved back in 1996. They defrauded my mining agent in 1997. In the year 2000, after they had menaced to kill him if he came out to the limelight, the man confessed to me and said to me, "Look, Barrick Gold Corporation stole your titles, and they defrauded me in the contract, and they put the amount of $20,000 for 8,600 hectares, so roughly about 20,000 acres, and full of gold and copper and silver and other minerals." And I said, BR is his last name, that is an unconstitutional move, and it's certainly against the law. Did you agree to the $20 equivalent contract? He said, no, I did not negotiate price or contract with them. And it was canceled, the transaction, by a judgment, and the Supreme Court validated that judgment in 2008. And it's that validation of judgment that allowed me to relay my titles in 2011, because I am supported by a judicial judgment and a Supreme Court judgment over all the Barrick positions that they have in the area.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So just to recap, you sent your engineer in to have a sit-down with some folks, some executives at Barrick, and what then transpired is what you're saying is that they allege that you or your engineer signed away your rights to the property for $20?
No, they don't allege that. What they did is, I sent my mining engineer and I told him, whenever Barrick calls you, you go to their office and you are going to sign off this multi-million-dollar transaction. And we're going to get the royalty as I have agreed with the company. The company was spying me. And when I was with my family in the south of Chile, they intercepted my transaction, and my arch enemy, a lawyer in Chile that I defend 100 families of workers from 1995 until this day against this group, and they are in inanition, some have died and everything. I'm in defense of this portfolio of these miners, and the lawyer that is my antagonist gets called by Barrick. And he says, look, you got a gripe with Lopehandia, don't you? And the guy says, yeah, I hate him. Okay, let's get him down. You call his mining engineer, whom you know, and we will steal the contract here with a fake contract, the property for $20. $20, an asset that they have in their books for $50 billion with B as in Bob, of which they sold in advance from my property to Deutsche Bank 7 million ounces that Deutsche Bank withdrew the money from Barrick. Mrs. Merkel fired Barrick, and the Americans went to the United States and demanded all of their physical gold back, and it went directly to Chile to sign with the president of Chile because they are astonished at the type of behavior that this company is exhibiting in the financial world markets.
Wow. Well, just quickly, Jeff, before I throw back to you, because I'm sure you have some input on this, but I'm looking at some recent news here, and on January 7th, 2013, the Pakistan Supreme Court ruled that Barrick had an invalid lease. To the layman, it would seem that Barrick has a long history of duplicity, allegedly. In this case, it seems as though you've very much been taken advantage of, Jorge, and I know that it's your life's passion to right this wrong.
You would be finding funny to know how Barrick made it to Pakistan. Barrick made it to Pakistan because I had a London Pakistani client that was operating in Germany under Unifico Holdings name, now holding property in Chile. This man had obtained for me a $50 million euro facility from the Central Bank of Austria, and deposited the money. It was in deposit screen to screen in Banco de Chile. Unbeknown to me, Barrick Gold Corporation had recruited the owner of Banco de Chile, Andronico Luksic, to be with Brian Moroney at the International Advisory Board of Barrick Gold Corporation. And this man was decimating me and my family since 1997 of agricultural portfolio, a mining portfolio, and we didn't know what was attacking us. And this man intercepted this transaction with my Pakistani client and told him, because the Pakistani guy told us, his name was Khurshid Ahmed Shah, and he told us, Banco de Chile has told us that I shouldn't do business with you because you are poor miners, and that I should deal with them and the Barrick Group and the business that we have access to, or introduce them to other business in Pakistan. Shortly after, my transaction was canceled and the screen, while my nephew was at the bank and had been asked by the bankers how many millions of dollars do you want us to put into your account in physical cash tomorrow. And they cut off the transaction. A few weeks later, or a couple of months later, Barrick Gold Corporation with Antofagasta Mines, that is the company of the Luksic Group, and Deutsche Bank end up in Pakistan doing business in areas of war theaters in the search of copper of 0.3%, when we have deposits with proven drill reserves of copper of over 1, 2, and 15% at Mr. Luksic Bank, and he has us mothballed.
Jeff, why don't you jump in, because I'm sure you have some follow-up for Jorge.
Yeah, now, of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, I am no insider as far as these mining operations go. I'm just basically an investor, and so, more or less somebody looking from the outside in. But, of course, what was also interesting here is that right after I'd gotten, tipped off about this litigation story and been invited to the luncheon, of course, Barrick released their fourth quarter results, and somewhat stunned the market by announcing that they were, mothballing projects, reviewing projects, putting things on hold, basically dramatically pulling back their horns. And, certainly it wasn't well received in the marketplace. And of course, it's in no way proof or corroboration of all of this drama that we've been told about, but it certainly is consistent with it. And, so it was one of those things that sort of further reinforced what I'd been told, when right after this we get some very surprising and disappointing news out of Barrick in terms of its official operating report.
Yeah, and Jorge, let me ask you this. Now, according to Barrick's own website, Pascua Lama has 17.9 million ounces of proven and provable gold reserves and 676 million ounces of silver. According to GATA's Chris Powell, who is familiar with your story and your conflict with Barrick, this could bankrupt Barrick and help free the gold price. How do you, Jorge, remedy this? Where are you going to find remedy for this particular lawsuit that you're engaged in, this conflict?
Let me explain you in short terms so that you understand. My first concern here is the depletion of wealth that is taking place because of Barrick across the world, and especially in Canadian pension funds, mutual funds, the entire system. Okay? This is an atrocity. This is another Briex, another Enron, and it should have never happened, and it happened due to the irresponsibility of the powers that be, that they did not want to regulate this monster, even though we were trying to do the right things. Even the ex-Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Paul Martin Jr., who initiated this investigation. The RCMP, unfortunately, was deceived to the point of giving away, the Pascua Lama project to Barrick in 2006, shortly after Mr. Moroney, that sits as a chairman of the board of International Advisory Board of Barrick, his good friend, Mr. Harper, took office, and the RCMP gave Pascua to Minera Nevada S.A. in January 2006, a company that was defunct. It had been killed in 2004 by Minera Nevada Limitada, who published the Pascua Lama Protocol and the properties of Pascua Lama in their ownership. And in 2006, Minera Nevada Limitada had been killed by Minera Nevada SPA, the one that is listed today in the Stock Exchange, Ontario Securities Commission, and Securities and Exchange Commission as an asset of Barrick Gold Corporation. What happened is that this company is to gold markets and to financial markets what Enron was to energy. It was selling and peddling the London Bridge more than 10 times over. And Peter Monk was as protected as Bern Madoff. So whereas I cannot give the system a solution with helping to heal Barrick Gold Corporation, yes, I have given the system a solution by putting my asset, Pascua, in this small company that was mentioned at the beginning, Mountain Star Gold, and I am bestowing another asset of equal value, 43101, proven, with proven reserves, to back up the Pascua deal, because the Pascua deal was tainted, and it's like a Rembrandt, that it was gashed and slashed at the presentation in public by Barrick saying, oh, sheesh, I don't own the Rembrandt, then I'm going to gash it and slash it. And what they did is they salted the glaciers with sand and salt, real salt, okay, to exterminate them, and then they start running bogus tests of water, and they dump 300,000 gallons of contaminated water onto the water sources of drinkable water for the community. And they tainted my project before the world community, and that is despicable, to walk away from something because Chile charged them with criminal falsification of Pascua Lama Protocol ownership, and they gashed my project as an eco-damage place of business. I find it irresponsible to the country of Canada, because nobody likes Canada the way they used to like them before in South America, and it hurts my heart.
Well, this is just an incredible story, and this is going to be just my personal brief commentary on essentially what I would refer to as corporate terrorism. You know, we know for a fact that HSBC, the big criminal bank, has been involved in drug money laundering for cartels, drug cartels, and for terrorists. We know that Enron was involved in all measure of crime when it was a going enterprise. There seems to be a definite, provable pattern with a lot of these companies, and this is an alarming...
You named the right ones. I'm sorry the interruption. You named the right ones. HSBC. They are the agents for the sale of the bogus and fake Pascua Lama royalties originated with public deeds in Chile over land that they don't own in Chile or in Argentina. And they cannot make deeds in Chile to sell Argentine territory. HSBC is peddling that on behalf of Barrick 2, company created to sell these royalties, and it has no assets. The company has nothing to do with Pascua Lama. Minera Nevada SPA, listed at SEC, has nothing to do with that, and yet these people continue to sell gold to the markets that they don't own.
Right.
Silver, Wheaton, silver, incredible.
And just to be clear for the audience, Pascua Lama, under Barrick's control, supposedly, has mined exactly how much gold?
0 ounces, but has sold forward 7 million ounces to Deutsche Bank, sold 25% of the silver they don't own to Silver Wheaton, has hedged forward sold, has done anything in the book that you can imagine with derivatives on this project, and there is a huge hole. When I started my fight with them in 2001, they had suppressed the gold markets down to 260 an ounce. They had suppressed the copper price to 67 cents a pound. and they had to press silver to $3 an ounce. And when we start pressing the legal knobs, all the metals went up. And every time that there are judicial decisions, the metal goes up. But these people are suppressing artificially the metals prices, and they are papering against the physical cost of the metal. So every time that they lower the metal price arbitrarily, like in the past 2 weeks, okay, those mines or miners that with great effort over a year they became viable at that price, in 2 weeks they get erased their gains and they owe money. Some of them jump into the pits of the mines. Some others go bankrupt, and the banks repossess their mines, and they give them to who? Give me a guess.
With respect to your comment about corporate terrorism, I mean that's how, as an investor, we have to view this sector, because I just finished writing a series of commentaries about the valuations for these gold mining companies, and the share prices for these companies in themselves is a scandal. We have companies that are reporting record profits or about to open extremely profitable mines, and we're seeing the share price going basically straight down. And of course, there's no rational reality where the market behaves in that manner.
Rational reality, and you have to put an equal sign. Okay, it's called PPT. It stands for Plunge Protection Team.
That's right.
It was an aggressive market manipulator. I don't know if it's still in place, but the stocks are artificially held, driven, traded at will, down, at will, up, bottom fed, you name it. The problem is with the regulators. Okay, they cannot be charged, and there is a jungle out there. Okay, Barrick breached the criminal laws of Canada by defacing its prospectus many times, and they are allowed to operate like Bern Madoff was, 14, 15 years being accused, and nobody did anything.
Well, and you're right, and that is the heart of the problem, Jorge. In this country, the SEC has largely been neutered, and it's a revolving door with those that would otherwise sit in those corporations anyway. Bernie Madoff is just the tip of the iceberg, and when there is no more honor in markets, when there is no rule of law, this is what we get. And, just to hit it home for the audience, guys, and we can end this conversation with Jeff's comments, and then we'll throw back to Jorge so people understand how to read more about your story or get in touch with you. But this is why we say time and time again, acquiring physical precious metals outside of the market, outside of any of these criminal banks, and holding it in your own possession is key to your financial survival a year, 5 years, a decade, 2 decades from now, from this moment in time, because we are living through tumultuous, incredible times in which the criminal banks run the show. The criminal banks can take the prices of these metals to pretty much wherever they want them, and it gets very, very hard for those of us in the know to make an argument to those of you who don't fully understand the big picture that buying silver when it's down 10% in 2 weeks, when it's plunged from 50 to 28, that we are right, because it seems like we must be wrong. And I can assure you that Jorge would back me up on this and Jeff would back me up on this. We're not wrong. We just live in the twilight zone. We live in crazy times in which the criminals are in charge. And we're going to see this continue to go on, Jorge, I think, until this paradigm, this system, this criminal banking fiat paper system, this criminal debt-based banking system in the United States and worldwide crumbles. I guess my question for you guys is, will it ever crumble, or will they just run the show forever?
When readers, or when your audience rather listens to this incredibly compelling drama, it may be difficult for them to follow certain details, or it may just be difficult for them to accept that something this monstrous could be true. But the one thing that perhaps people should focus on, and it's just a relatively simple part of the overall story, is that if merely the detail about Barrick filing a claim for this title that straddled the border and in fact included Argentine territory, if that part alone is accurate, then that is fatal for them. Of course, there's no way that Barrick could ever register a valid Chilean land title that included Argentine territory. So exactly. that one detail alone, if that is in fact verified to be true, it is totally conclusive with respect to the entire drama.
You see, the original prospectus was Mina Pascua, Chile, at Ontario Securities Commission. Mina Pascua, Chile. There was no Lama. There was no Veladero. There were no glaciers, because Mina Pascua has no glaciers. It was Mina Pascua prospectus. Okay? Lama was added up to confuse the issue and to try to create a separate country. A separate country where a tunnel will connect Barrick Chile to Barrick Argentina, and Barrick Chile will steal the gold and silver from Chile and process it in Argentina, and Barrick Argentina will spit it in private and clandestine airports, the gold bars and silver bars, and the precious or strategic minerals. They will replace them and further enhance their purity in North America. And there was the Pascua Lama country, and there was no tax incentive to Chile, no way of taxing the rocks, and Argentina, no way of taxing the mineral that Barrick said it belonged to Chile, so it shouldn't pay to Argentina anything except for the taxes in the use of equipment and what have you, personnel. So Chile and Argentina decided to eliminate the tax treaty in December 31st, 2012. Because Chile had already charged criminally the Pascua Lama protocol with falsification of the same. They falsified the mining property, and that was proven to the Chilean courts before the charges were made.
Well, Jorge, this is most definitely a David versus Goliath story. Do you have any final words for the audience? How would people learn more about you or the project, or how do people get in touch with you? Is there a website?
I had websites, and they hack them every 2-3 times a week. I will tell the people an echo in what you said before. All of my friends that they follow me, we used to play soccer here in North Vancouver, community soccer, all people, like average people, working in every walk of life. I said, guys, the fight is on. The system is going to crumble. All the paper, the fake fiat paper, is going to crumble. If you have any gold or silver paper, demand it to be delivered in physical form. And from 260, you will see how it climbs. The ones who followed me, they multiplied their money in physical silver, and they multiplied their money in gold, and they never lost anything. The ones who didn't and thought it was a fantasy, sometimes they always were seeing it too late to come in. It'll never go up, and it kept going and going. Some got at the middle of the runs. It hasn't happened yet, the big run for the minerals, until the corrections are done. I believe that even if they pull down the prices of the minerals, they are going to have to come to reality that if they manipulate the metal price markets for the miners like me, they have to bring down the price of gasoline. They have to bring down the price of edibles. They have to bring down the price of the parts. They have to bring down the wages and salaries of the engineers, of the miners that produce the minerals. They cannot tamper with Mother Earth, with the system they created themselves, because they become indebted to the gloat of paper that they created themselves. We, human beings, are not responsible of their imprudence, irresponsibility. And we, and I say we now as Mountain Star Gold and myself, we are trying to come out as a healthy alternative and solution to this cancer of the system. Nothing else.
Well, Jorge Lopehandia, boy, what revelations you've shared with us. Thanks for not taking the easy payouts early on, and thanks for standing up to Goliath. If more people did that, this world would be a much better place.
I appreciate your kindness, and I thank you, and I thank your listeners for keeping this close to their heart and passing it around. And I will be standing in God for thee, even if those ones who were appointed to office are not.
Good man. Good man. And Jeff Nielson from BullionBullsCanada.com. Sir, thank you very much. It's always nice to talk with you.
Well, it's a wonderful story for me to listen to, and if I could play a small part in helping you bring it to your audience, then I'm happy for that.
All right, gentlemen. A fond farewell to both of you. A fond farewell to the audience. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Stack Physical.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.